Our precious Paxton was born 5 weeks early on the day of my baby sister's engagement party. He came into the world stealing everyone's sunshine as the first boy born on both sides of the family. Soon after birth, I noticed Paxton was a noisy breather. That's what we call them in the medical field. I sent him to the nursery to be evaluated, and following discharge from the hospital, I brought him to the pediatrician multiple times. There were many nights my husband and I would hear him stop breathing as he lay in the bassinet next to our bed. I would reach over and startle him and then lie awake listening to him breathe until the next feeding. I was so scared. At each visit to the doctor, his breathing would normalize and the issues were chalked up to silent reflux. But the cycle continued. When Paxton was 4 weeks old, everything changed. My mom came over to check on us, which she did almost every morning since I also had an 18-month-old little girl at home. After getting a coffee together, we decided to stop by my husband's office. Before leaving, I chose to breastfeed Pax so he would be full and happy on the way home. He was always such a great eater. However, this time he had one of his breathing episodes while nursing. He began to choke and soon after stopped breathing. My mom and I are both pediatric nurses. Thankfully, she went into nurse mode because I went into mommy mode. I panicked and forgot everything I knew. My sister immediately called 911. Once again, Paxton chose to be in the limelight, which we can all laugh about now. These events took place on my other sister's anniversary. Once we arrived at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital, all of our peers were there, ready to save my baby boy's life. After multiple sticks for blood, an IV, a lumbar puncture, and chest x-rays, he was successfully sedated, paralyzed, intubated, and put on a ventilator.
The days were long and the nights longer as we waited for the next morning's chest x-rays to see if his lungs were healing from the aspiration pneumonia he acquired from the breast milk in his lungs. We saw every specialist and each one thought they knew why this happened. We had every test possible and each one demonstrated more bad news. The words that hurt the most was, "Your son has cerebral palsy." All of our hopes and dreams for a healthy baby boy came crashing down like a ton of bricks.
10 days into this, a close friend said she put a call into Sister Dulcie. I had heard of her before, but had no idea what she would do for my family going forward. Sister called my cell a couple of hours later, and the tone of her voice immediately calmed my racing heart. Sister was not well at the time, and she was not seeing patients in the hospital. However, she told me Papa was telling her to come see Paxton. 2 hours later, she wheeled into his ICU room as his lifeless body lay in the isolette. She laid her hands on Paxton and looked up at us with the sweetest eyes and grin I've ever seen. She said she could feel the lung infection in her hands, and he was a very sick baby. She also told us the worst was yet to come, but he was going to be okay.
From that point on, we found hope. And with hope came a strong faith that there was nothing we could not handle together.
Days later, an attempt was made to take him off the ventilator. His little body was just not ready. His lungs were so sick. Shortly after, he was reintubated and placed back on the ventilator. I will never forget the look on my sister's face, who is a physician assistant, when she walked out of the room with the physician. She said, "It did not go as planned. His vocal cords were so swollen, and it was very hard to get the tube down." I called Sister, and she told me again it would be a long road, but Papa said he would fully recover and be an amazing little baseball player. My husband and I held on to this statement for the next year. We talked to Sister on the phone every morning after his chest x-ray. She gave some insight on the day ahead and what to expect. We prayed relentlessly and hung on to every word Sister said. We trusted her with our whole heart. There are no words to express our gratitude for what Sister Dulcie did for us during Paxton's journey. 28 long days later, we took Paxton home on an apnea monitor and oxygen. He was choking with every feed, had daily home health nurse visits, occupational therapy, and follow-up appointments with every pediatric specialist as we continued to rule out the cerebral palsy diagnosis. Sister called multiple times weekly over the following year to check in. We would see her often until one day she said, "Sweet Paxton doesn't need me anymore." Little did she know, Paxton's mommy and daddy would always need her. This is exactly why we attend Dining by Design every single year, simply to sit next to Sister and thank her for doing God's work here on earth. During Pax's hospitalization, I prayed the Angel of God prayer at his bedside multiple times throughout the day. In fact, Pax and I still pray this prayer together before bed, and it warms my heart to know that Sister Dulcie truly is our Angel of God. It is 9 years later, and we are still so thankful, grateful, and blessed for our Sister Dulcie and the Cypress Springs Mercedarian Prayer Center.